Goodreads to the rescue. Goodreads. Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today I'm going to be bringing you the ever popular mid-year book freakout tag. I have seen so many of these in my subscription feed lately. Hopefully you are not tired of them yet. Because I think it's a fantastic tag. I think it gives a great overview of the books that I've read throughout the year so far, and so I'm doing it too. I'm jumping on that bandwagon. I don't know if I've done this every year that I've been on BookTube, but we're gonna do it today. So enjoy. Here's a little overview of my reading year so far. I will link the creators of this tag in the description box below. There are 13 questions and we jump right in with one of the hardest ones, and that is, what is your favorite book that you've read so far this year? I'm going with my most recent favorite. You will be seeing a video, or you will have seen a video, I'm not sure what order these are going to be posted, of my 5 favorite books so far this year. I will just tell you that I recently read Hum If You Don't Know the Words by Bianca Murray, and absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. This takes place in apartheid South Africa, deals with a lot of racism. It deals with 2 women, one young girl actually, and a woman who come from completely different backgrounds but who are bonded together because of their circumstances. And the young girl, who grew up in a home where hatred and bigotry and racism was the order of the day, she learns how to accept and love people who are different from her. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. It's heartbreaking. There are so many good quotes. The writing is fabulous. It's one that will stick with me for quite a long time. Love, love, loved it. Okay, the best sequel that I read in 2019. I have done pretty good with some sequels this year. I think I've read 6 or 7 sequels already this year, which makes me very happy. I'm gonna say that the one that I liked the best, I think, is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. Thunderhead is the sequel to Scythe, which is a young adult, I would say, kind of futuristic utopian society. Thunderhead is just a continuation of the story that we started in Scythe, and we get to know the world a little bit better. We travel to some different places. The politics that started in the first book are continued in the second book. The characters that we meet in the first book grow and change and have different roles in the second book. It's just a bigger picture, and I absolutely loved it. We get to know the Thunderhead a little bit more and the role that it plays in society as a somewhat silent observer, but is it always a silent observer? Yeah. Very good, very fast-paced, fun sequel. Loved it, loved it. All right, number 3, a new release that you haven't read yet, but that you really want to. I have so many of these. I don't actually own a lot of new releases I get from the library because finances don't dictate purchasing new books. So a couple that I'm interested in, I'm just going to put pictures up here. I would really love to read Song for a Whale. I forget the author's name, but this is a middle grade book about a deaf girl who struggles fitting in, very intelligent, and it's about a whale who sings at a different frequency than the rest of their family, squad, school, herd. What is a whale community called? Anyway, so this girl wants to create a way to communicate with this whale, since they both are somewhat outcasts and she wants to connect with this whale. I feel like it's going to be a beautiful book. It has a gorgeous cover. Another one that I'm really interested in reading is The Binding. In The Binding, which is by Bridget Collins, we follow a boy named Emmett, who is a farmer working in the fields when he is called to become an apprentice to a bookbinder. Bookbinders kind of have a stigma around them. They are a little bit feared by the rest of the world, and that is because they have a little bit of power. Books are banned in this setting, in this futuristic type world. Books are banned. However, there are still books, because if you have a situation that causes you grief or a memory that you no longer want to have, you can go to a binder and get your memory contained into a book. So Emmett learns how to become a binder, but then Emmett discovers one day that one of the books has his name on it. He has a memory that he has placed there, and everything that he thought he knew about his life unravels, in a sense. It just sounds like a really cool type of a book that's very different from anything else I've read before, and yeah, I'm super interested to read that one. Number 4 is a most anticipated release for the rest of the year, and I have a few of those as well. The third book in the Thunderhead series, called The Toll, is coming out in November. I'm of course very interested in that. I will be getting that from the library. The Testament, which is the follow-up to The Handmaid's Tale, by Margaret Atwood. That comes out in September. I'm very interested in that one. And then The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern also comes out in November. Erin Morgenstern wrote The Night Circus, and I loved that book, and I'm very curious to see what else she comes up with. So those 3 are new releases that I'm interested in. I don't typically pay attention to what's coming out, but those are 3 that I kind of have my eye on. So those, I guess, could be considered most anticipated. This was the easy one. My biggest disappointment of the year so far was, hands down, The Tattooist of Auschwitz. I love World War II historical fiction, and I really did not like that book. I thought the writing was awful. I gave it 2 stars. It was unbelievable. It was cutesy. The romance was like, I don't know. I just didn't like it at all. I read the whole thing, so there's that. But yeah, I was not a fan by, who wrote that? Heather Morris, I want to say. Not a fan. I know there are people who absolutely love it. The same could be said for East of Eden, which was also a big disappointment for me. I was really hoping to like East of Eden, but I can't call it my biggest disappointment because I did have a feeling I wasn't going to care for it, even though so many people loved it. I was right. I didn't really like it. And then one that I DNF'd that I really wasn't feeling was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Another one that is so well loved by so many people. Just was not the book for me. Pretentious, privileged, white kids studying classical literature think they can get away with everything. And they were just very unlikable. And I don't mind an unlikable character, but there was so much about this book that I just didn't like. I found it boring most of the time. I never wanted to pick it up. So I DNF'd it 3/4 of the way through. So there's 3. Yay. Bonus answers there for you. The biggest surprise of the year, I had a little bit harder of a time coming up with this one. I think I'm going to say Walk 2 Moons by Sharon Creech. Now, I love middle grade, and I knew people who really loved this book, so I was hoping to like it, but the cover was really, really unappealing to me. I bought the book last year. I didn't ever feel the urge to read it, but I did read it this year during middle grade March, and absolutely loved it. Way more than I thought I would. It was a highlight of my March, for sure. So that was a surprise. Number 7 is your favorite new author. It could be a debut author or just a new to you author. And for me, I'm going to say Sarah Addison Allen. She's one of the authors that I have multiple books of hers on my shelves, but hadn't read anything up until this year. And I've read 2 now so far this year, and both were very enjoyable. I must say that they're not not that they're not memorable. They're not ones that really stick with me for long after I read them, but while I'm reading them, I'm 100% in it. I love it. I flew through it. I was very engaged with the story, and I guess I could say these are a bit of a surprise as well, because I don't typically enjoy magical realism, and that's what she does, like Southern fried magical realism. And I absolutely loved it. So yeah, Sarah Addison Allen is a new favorite from this year. Number 8 is a newest fictional crush. Like many others that I've been seeing so far do this video, I don't really get fictional crushes. I mean, I have a few. John Thornton from North and South is a fictional crush. Gilbert Blythe is forever my fictional crush, and others. But this year so far, none have really stood out to me. I do love Joe from the Betsy Tacy series, but I don't love him for me, like as a crush. I love him for Betsy. I just think that he's a quality guy, and I always got so happy when he was in the different scenes of that book. So I don't know that you'd call it a crush, but I just love him. Not that I go pitter patter, but I go, aw. My newest favorite character, speaking of Betsy Tacy, I think I'm going to say Betsy for this question. I've read 8 of the Betsy Tacy books now so far, and she has grown up from 5 years old. I feel like I've lived life with her. She just graduated from high school this month in the book that I read this in June, and I've really loved watching her grow and change and get to know herself and try new things, and the antics and her friendships and her family. I've kind of fallen in love with Betsy Ray. So she is going to be my newest favorite character. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. I cry a lot in books, so I'm not going to show you all the books that made me cry. I actually don't make note of it anymore because pretty much every book makes me tear up at some point. I cry a lot, but I did read 2 Kristen Hanna books this year, and of course both of them made me cry a lot. Firefly Lane and The Great Alone. I read both of those so far this year, and yeah, Kristen Hanna just gets straight to my heart, twists it around a little bit, squeezes it dry. Number 11 is a book that made you happy. I have a few. I've already talked about the Betsy Tacy series. As she's getting older and older, I'm really enjoying those books, and I just smile a lot while I'm reading them. I really loved the Wild Robot duology that I read during middle grade March. I just found those to be such fun reads, and I've already reread the first one because I'm reading it aloud to the family that I nanny on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we're just starting the second one. So those are just a fun, happy, not always happy, but ultimately happy books. And then The Story Girl by L.M. Montgomery. I have loved branching out away from the Anne books into other books that L.M. Montgomery has written. I have a lot that I still need to read, but I loved The Story Girl. She reminded me in a way of Anne just because she had such a wild imagination, and her name is Sarah, but she's just called The Story Girl by everybody because she's filled with stories and constantly telling stories. But it's about a group of cousins and friends and their summer together and the adventures that they get into. I loved it and would definitely say that it's a book that made me happy. Number 12 is the most beautiful books that you've bought or acquired this year. And I have a lot of beautiful books that I've got this year, but I think I'm going to talk about these C.S. Lewis editions. I just really loved them. And I get these from Book Outlet. I probably get 1 or 2 every time. Well, I've ordered twice. So I've gotten 2 or 3, I guess, each time that I've ordered. So we have Surprised by Joy, Till We Have Faces, The Dark Tower and Other Stories, Reflections on the Psalms, The World's Last Night, which is a collection of essays, and then Spirits in Bondage, a cycle of lyrics, which is poetry. So I just think that these are absolutely gorgeous. I love how they look all together. I haven't read any of them yet, but I'm very excited to dive into them and to also continue to expand this collection of these editions. I'm very excited for that. So beautiful, beautiful books. I'm a sucker for a pretty book. Number 13 is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? How can I just pick one? I feel like I want to read all the books. I want to read all the books. All the books that were recommended to me by you guys. All the unread books on my shelves. There's so many books I want to read. I think what I'll say here, though, is any book that ends a series, I would like to read by the end of the year. I would like to wrap up some series. So we have The Hero of Ages, which wraps up the Mistborn series. I plan on reading that later this summer. I also would like to read Assassin's Quest, which wraps up the Farseer trilogy, which I started last summer, still haven't finished. And what else? Anything on that series shelf I really would like to finish up, or at least continue to make progress on. I've been doing good this year so far, but definitely have quite a few more. But any book that ends a series, those 2 in particular. I think I have 3 or 4 other ones that will end series. And I'd like to finish all of those by the end of the year. That is it. That is the 13 questions that kind of gives you an overview of some of the books that I've read this year and some topics from the books that I've read this year. I really love this tag, and I would love to hear from you. Did any of my answers surprise you, or Did you already know some of them before I said it? Or also, I would love to hear from you. What is one of your biggest surprises or disappointments so far this year? Let's chat down in the comments below. You guys know I love talking with you down there. Also, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will talk to you in another video very soon. Bye.